Hello and welcome to another episode of the Break It Down for Brackens podcast. Today we have Jason Stedman. He is running for county prosecutor in Berkeley County. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Like with everybody, let's go ahead and start with background. Tell us about where you've come from, your education, and eventually what inspired you to run for office.
Well, my family has been here for quite some time. We've been here for multiple generations. Everybody leaves and comes back, and that's kind of what we do. And I've done the same thing. I'm sure my daughter will as well. So I actually started in high school in Martin County, Florida. And when I was doing that, I started working with the prosecutor's office there, got involved, was doing research for the line attorneys, working with juveniles, and doing a lot of casework.
When you say line attorneys, what does that mean?
Line attorneys are the assistant prosecutors that
Okay.
are working on a daily basis, and I was working with them to do research, to back them up and do what I needed to do. I was in court probably 3 days a week as a high school student and just kind of got used to it, so it was usual for me to wear a shirt and tie to school most days.
It's amazing.
And then I actually kept with it, and through law school, I kept working at the prosecuting attorney's office, and then once I graduated, I was able to take a job and work for about 6 years as a prosecutor.
That's so neat. So was it a program started by the high school, or that was offered out by the court, or?
It was through the United Way, and I started as a volunteer, and they kind of had me as a good volunteer, and I was able to take on a caseload to counsel juveniles as a juvenile, and that was kind of a pilot program. I ended up running the county boot camp program for the sheriff's office as well, and that was just some things that we developed when I was still a youth.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when you say the boot camp, like youngsters that are just going down a troubled path and finding crime at a young age, and then they straighten them out, or what is that?
Yeah, I was big in Boy Scouts as well. I'm an Eagle Scout. I got my Eagle at 13. So I had about 12 kids that were all very troubled from the downtown environment, that all had various records that they sent with me for a week at Scout Camp to see how that would turn around, and it actually did do great. I can't tell you I have all the most success in the world, but I do have one that turned into a police officer.
That's a good transition there. Mm-hmm. You know, Eagle Scout, we didn't talk about this in the pre-meeting, but first of all, congratulations on that. That shows a significant amount of discipline at a very young age. And to acquire it at 13, I mean, most kids get it at like 16, 17, 18, don't they? It's much later. Good for you. That's a real accomplishment.
It was very early for me. I actually was able to learn a lot of leadership that way.
Right. And
they moved me up into district operations, where I was actually going to other units and helping other leaders that were having some difficulty. So it was a good opportunity for me to use my leadership early on.
That's really cool, Jason. So what inspired you to run for county prosecutor? And what I mean by that is, you're doing your job, and I guess you should probably explain what your current job is first, and then at some point there's a spark that says, I think I'm going to make this move. Tell me about that.
Well, I've been running my own practice for quite some time, working on the criminal defense side and doing abuse and neglect. And at some point in time, I learned that Katie Wilkes-Delegati was going to run for judge. And that got me thinking, and was thinking about going back and being a prosecutor again. I was a prosecutor for the first 6 years of my career in Pinellas County, Florida, which is a very large county. We had approximately 125 lawyers in our office, so it was much bigger than the 12 to 15 that we have here. I always loved prosecuting, wanted the opportunity to do it again, and when I saw that there was a potential opening to run for prosecuting attorney, it gave me an opportunity to give back and serve Berkeley County, and that was something I wanted to explore and try.
What do you see as some of the challenges in our community?
Well, one of the hugest challenges that we have is the drug problem. Mm-hmm. And we need to combat the supply and the demand for the drugs. We're doing a great job on arresting the offenders and arresting the dealers and taking them off the street. But we also have a huge problem with the number of addicts that are out there. And that reaches across the board into almost everything. It goes into education, it goes into abuse and neglect, it goes into how people are taking care of their children. And we have an opportunity to make sure that we embrace the recovery community and do what we can to make sure that we can focus on those that are getting a better position.
Let me see if I understand what the recovery industry is. So, let's say I'm a drug user and I get arrested for possession of whatever, right? And I'm probably, again, this is how we break it down for Brackens, probably there's options to go to jail, or there's options for, not parole, but probation.
Probation.
There's community service, but if I'm a repeat offender, that's when you guys determine that I need further guidance, like the day report or some sort of rehab. Is that how that works? Or kind of walk me down that path a little bit.
Sure. The recovery community is very strong here in Martinsburg. We have the Hope Dealers Project that's working. We have the Day Report Center that's doing a great job. You've got the Catalyst program for juveniles. But problem is, you get these addicts that are addicted to drugs and they need to use them in order to function. We need different things that we can utilize, like the adult drug court, like the juvenile drug court, that can help give supervision to these individuals. A lot of times they need medically assisted treatment where they can get Suboxone or Vivitrol or another drug that can help keep them clean and keep them on the straight and narrow. But a lot of what we do need is education and training, and that's important, and that's what they get through the Day Report Center. That's what they get through Mountaineer Recovery and longer programs.
Educating, I always say educating clients, but educating people, it's not just up through high school. You know, you're right. When you educate, the reason I started this podcast many, many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, was a postgraduate program of Leadership Jefferson. I went through their leadership program at the Chamber of Commerce, and we learned so much about multiple industries, whether it's agriculture, education, local government, federal government, industry in the county. In the county that I lived in for over 10 years, I was amazed at how little I knew about so much that was going on. And I started this podcast to educate people, to bring it to the forefront. And that's why I like having guys on like you, where you can tell me how the systems work. So I assume the county prosecutor's office has somebody who's broken the law and is shown to be an addict. You then provide the options for the recovery, like the choices. It's like, do this, or you got more problems. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we can look at sentencing for different pathways, whether individuals are going to participate in Day Report Center or Mountaineer Recovery or a similar program. A lot of times we'll do it where they're placed on bond, and then they're given Day Report Center as a condition of bond.
Nice.
Or some individuals are actually sentenced to complete the Day Report Center. And that's important because it does have the level of education. It has an immense amount of accountability.
The support, right.
And that's what's needed, because a lot of times we have peer recovery coaches who are recovering addicts themselves, and they will give no quarter to individuals. They make sure that people are held to the grindstone and do what they need to do in order to better themselves and stay in recovery.
And working on that recovery is always better than going to prison.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. That's the motivation there. And additionally, I don't know, but I assume the prisons are very busy. So these options not only being better for the addict, it's better for the system all around.
It's better for the system. It's cheaper. It will help save the county money, and that's important at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. What other challenges do you bring to the forefront that you want to help work on?
Well, one of the biggest things that I want to see changed is we have individuals that are stuck at the Eastern Regional Jail who are bound over and waiting for the grand jury. I think it's important that we make sure that everybody that's sitting in the Eastern Regional Jail will see the grand jury at the first grand jury. They have more than one that they can sit and wait. But unfortunately, it costs the county $48.33 a day to house an inmate. And if I can get through the system and make sure that they're indicted or not in the first term, that is something that I definitely want to address as being a prosecutor here in Berkeley County.
How often do those terms pop up?
About 4 times a year.
4 times a year. So you'd be sitting at ERJ for 3 months possibly, or 2 months, waiting your chance to be, is it tried, or is it, what's the word?
It's not tried. It's just to go before the grand jury. And at the grand jury, it's just a prosecutor, the officer, and the grand jury. And they present their case, and then the grand jury determines whether there's going to be a true bill, or whether they determine whether there is or is not enough to charge a crime.
Understood. Yeah, every 3 months. That's quite a long time. And I've known people who've gone to ERJ, and I know people who've gone to prison, and the feedback I've heard from them, it's just deplorable, the situations, and trying to, I mean, it's always a sob story from somebody who's in prison, but basically they've really had some challenges, and they would really benefit from more expedited situations like that. And right or wrong, I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but that's a very good point to be leaning on, though.
Well, it's important not only because of the savings, but it's not that difficult to take cases to grand jury. I realize there'll be some drug cases that we don't have the labs back and things like that may need more time. Occasionally there may need a murder that needs more investigation that's not quite ready to go. But I would make it a major part of my administration to make sure that I can take everybody to grand jury in their first term in order that we can get them indicted and get things moving.
That's good stuff. What do you think the county's doing really well right now?
I think the county is focusing on drug treatment, which it needs to. It's focusing on education, which it needs to. So I think those are important things. The other thing to realize is that our county is growing incredibly quickly, and we're going to have more and more people and more problems. The good news for that is that I'm an experienced prosecutor from Pinellas County, Florida, and I'm back here home in Berkeley County. So I know the challenges of a large county and a growing county, and I think that can definitely be addressed, and I think that's definitely a plus for me.
Yeah, I get that. If I understand correctly, being the county prosecutor, you kind of are the top police official, right?
That's correct.
Is there an effort to build the force bigger? Is it part of your department to like make it bigger and stronger, or for recruitment or stuff like that? Or is that not your?
All the agencies are recruiting at a regular basis. You see Martinsburg recruiting. You see the sheriff's office recruiting. It would not be my job to alter the size of those departments. That's going to be for somebody else in the county commission to decide. I would certainly be in favor of more law enforcement because they're needed, but they need to get to their regular ranks first.
Well, thanks. That question was probably out of the scope of what we're talking about, but that's why we're breaking it down for Brackens, because I don't know all the things. Well, let's talk about why it's important to vote.
It's important to vote because we all have a voice in the community, and every 4 years, every 2 years, we have an opportunity to go forward and pick who our leaders are. And that's an incredible responsibility that's on all of our citizens. We need to be informed, we need to be educated, and we need to be able to make the right choices. And it's important that you go out and vote in order that you can show that you've done the legwork and you've made the right choices and you understand what's going on.
You know, one of the things I like about this podcast is that, and again, some of the exposure I've had to some of the leadership, both locally and on a state level, is that I realized you're a regular guy. I'm a regular guy. Sometimes when voters are envisioning the people they're voting for, that they're untouchable. They're hard to get a hold of. They're on a higher level, or does that make sense? They assume, I'm just a local citizen. I don't really have anything to say to Jason because he's a county prosecutor. He's too busy to talk to me. I've actually found just the opposite, that when you make yourself available as a citizen to talk to somebody who's running for office or somebody who's in office, they're all traditionally normal people who just have a little bit more motivation. They have a little bit more motivation to change and make things happen. But what I really like about that is that if somebody recognized you and saw you at the garage having dinner, they had no problem talking to you. Or like if somebody saw you at a Rotary meeting, like we see each other, it's easy to talk to somebody and ask questions. And if you did something, for example, a state representative that I know helped push forward the you no longer have to have a license to be a painter in West Virginia. And I didn't agree with that. I think that there should be some sort of oversight that's a little more regulated for the business owners in my industry. But I love the fact that I can walk up to him and say, "Hey, Mr. Representative, what are you doing?" I actually called him. I said, why? How can this even be? Sell me on the idea. And he tried to. We had a good civil conversation about it. But you can tell people they're doing a good job. You can tell people they're doing a rough job. But we're all the same sort of humans. We're all the same level. It's just because somebody is in office or running for office doesn't mean that they're higher or above or untouchable. I love that we're all the same human, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. And I can give you an example of something that happened as recently as this weekend. You know that I'm very active in scouting, and I'm the council president for the Shenandoah Area Council. We now have 3,000 youth in 11 counties and 4 states, so we've recently grown and absorbed another council. But we were working very closely with Paul Espinosa to put forward a bill to make sure that patriotic organizations like the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts can have access to the Berkeley County schools. And we were actually able to get that bill through the House and through the Senate with support from myself and other local leaders to make sure that bill was able to go forward and get passed on the Friday before the session ended. So it's good that we have the approachability, that we can get a hold of the legislators that we need to make sure that we can take appropriate action.
Yeah, I think I love that, but what I think I was trying to say was that voting in the primaries, voting for local is so crucial. Voting for federal is one thing. I mean, you're never going to talk to the president. You're never going to talk to state level or federal level congressmen. You're never really going to get to them or talk to them. Maybe you can, but in my mind, they're on a harder to reach scenario.
Sure.
Our local leadership, you can walk down and talk to the sheriff. We could come find your office and sit outside and wait till your availability. We'd come talk to you. Absolutely,
and I would encourage that.
Yeah, and sometimes people just need to ask questions or know what questions to ask. And I appreciate you being really open on the podcast and sharing this with me. Let's talk about what's the call to action? Why should people vote for Jason Stedman?
They should vote for me because I'm a proven leader. I've worked in the community. I've run organizations. I've been a practicing lawyer for 25 years. I spent probably 10 of those as a prosecutor. I spent 6 as a professional prosecutor, but more time than that as an intern and through high school and college. The important thing is I've run different organizations. I've run different businesses. I understand what it means to be responsible for leadership in our culture. And I understand what it means to be a leader in our community. And I have the opportunity to do that. I have a willingness to serve, and I look forward to giving back.
That's wonderful. I need to write this on my notes board, which if you're watching, I have a notes board up here, and I continue to forget to ask it. So it's okay if you don't have a good answer to this. What questions am I not asking that maybe I should? What have we not covered that really drives home that you're the guy to vote for?
Well, I'm an experienced trial attorney. Like I said, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've got the experience as an administrator. I've got experience as a business owner. I've got experience as a community leader to do what needs to be done to make sure that our prosecuting attorney's office is run fairly, run effectively, and run smoothly.
Nice. Well, I guess I don't really have any other questions because I'm just not incredibly familiar with the position or the office. Like I've had Matt Hardy on 1 or 2 times a couple of years back until we talked about what they were doing in Jefferson County. And I guess if there's nothing more really to share, I get that you have the experience. I'm excited about that. I love that you've been a business owner. You've run your own firm. And I can't imagine what Pinellas County is like with 120 some odd county prosecutors. That's amazing. That's an amazingly, I mean, I used to live down there, and it is bustling.
Well, there's a lot, but the important thing is I've got the trial experience. Mm-hmm. I've got the experience of trying cases, of dealing with things at a trial level, being in front of jurors, being in front of grand jurors, and I bring that experience to that county, and I think it's important to have the opportunity to give back.
Right, and with Berkeley County growing as fast as it is, and we all know how it's growing, it's not just because there's some construction being done. It's seen just by the amount of traffic. There's so much here now, so many neighborhoods popping up on places that you don't know is there. It really is growing enormously, and the industry along 81. It's a wonderful county to be a part of, and I wish you the best in your campaign.
Thank you. It's an important responsibility to undertake what I'm doing, but I think it's important for me to be here and be serving now and having this opportunity at this point in time to have us go forward as a growing county and be able to deal with the challenges and opportunities of growing as fast as we are.
That's great, Jason. Thanks for this wonderful conversation. Hello, I'm Kevin Brackens. I'm one of the coaches with Crystal Clear Business, and I'd like to invite you to schedule a free coaching session. I look forward to chatting with you about your business plans and offering the accountability we all need to achieve business success and freedom. As a business owner myself, I understand the challenges, time commitments, and the fear of the unknown. Coaching is about helping you develop a success-driven mindset and, equally important, a systems-dependent business. Whether it's getting started with a new product or service line, or growing your existing business through formalized systems, I can help get you there. To find out more about my services and to schedule a complimentary coaching session, go to crystalclearbusiness.com.